Tunde Lemo, a former deputy governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, among other professional experiences he's got here and around the world, is live here in the studio for what you call the Tunde Lemo interview. The second part, thank you very much. We have this is the political season, and a lot of campaign talks going around. Everybody's pulling out so what they think the policy documents will be, how to generate revenue and spend it. 90% of this, if not more, is around oil prices, oil production, what have you, and less is being said, if anything at all, about using the debt market, using Broad Street, as it were, the financial markets, the equity markets. So, what's your thought about this, that it looks like the conversation around the market is beginning to fade, and we're beginning to talk a little bit more about other things?
Well, I think it's all because of the orientation of Nigerians generally, because we thought, we believe government is a big brother. And then when you talk about development, you want to see government throw money. We think they have this inexhaustible vault, resources that are seemingly infinite, and so can be thrown into every problem. I think we need to widen our scope, like you said, and begin to look at so many other things around the globe, particularly resources. Like you hinted just before we went on break, nobody is talking about human capital development. And we seem to be losing out in this area so much. Nigerians are making waves all over the globe, particularly in Europe and America. Even the youth today are beginning to show that they are capable of doing a lot more. And yet, not much is going into that as part of deliberate policies actually to harness resources, because countries are great not because of resource endowment or capital, but because of human beings and then the skills.
But we've been increasing our budgets, appropriations every year into education, into healthcare, and things like that. So why does it seem like a bottomless pit? We just keep throwing hundreds of billions of every budget into
Again, policy. You don't just throw money at problems. You need to sit down and ask yourself the right question. Take, for instance, let's start from the basic things. Today, there are no technical skills for anything. Nigeria is the only place where I can show up today and say I'm an electrician, and yet I don't even have any certification.
And you got a screwdriver.
We all grew up.
All you need is a screwdriver.
Exactly. we all grew up. We all grew up to see technical schools and so on. Where are they today? They've all disappeared. And today, if you need to build a nice house, you go to Ghana, you go to Togo and import masons, and then this is not of a concern to us. 180 million people, so many Nigerians on the street. The university curricula, they are made to produce graduates that queue up for jobs. Today, nobody is talking about entrepreneurship and innovation as integral part of degree that people hold, so that when they come out, they think of how to create jobs as opposed to how others should create jobs. I don't know what NECA is doing. I don't know what ITF, Industrial Training Fund, is doing. All of these entrepreneurship development centers all over Nigeria, they should put us together and begin to take another look at how to actually tailor the skills of Nigerians that we're producing to our national requirements. And this has to happen at the policy level.
You left school, you went to the cities. You got big jobs, become a big man, a deputy governor at the central bank. Then you left and you came back and you went back to schools and have interactions with lecturers and school principals and what have you. And you're heartbroken at the level of education.
I am. I'm really heartbroken. Because today, even before I left full-time job as MD CEO of a bank, you invite graduates. And then you go through rigorous interviews. You can't identify one of them that is fit for the job that you have for them. And in spite of all the long years they've spent. And so many people, today I have my bags, thousands of CVs, but how many of them are actually competent, actually to carry out basic tasks? We need to begin to ask ourselves questions. But NUC will tell you that we have 200 universities, 150 universities, but what type of graduates are we producing? What skill are we producing? Are these the skills that are needed? Not the generic skills like accounting, finance, and all what have you. What are skills for today that are required for today's industry? Are we having that regular conversation with the real sector, with the private sector? What are the skills that you need so that we can tailor that to national requirements?
So we liberalize the educational system. It was a private sector, set up schools, 3-bedroom apartment. You can call it a university. Face me, I face you. It's a primary school, a nursery school, anything, whatever it is. Anybody's backyard, front yard, a shop, filling station, just turn into a school, and that seems to be working. Is it working?
It is not working. We are just producing half-baked graduates. Some of them will travel abroad and retrain and then become more relevant to the economies that are hosting them. Some have become social miscreants in Nigeria. Why do we have crime, you know, in most of these places? Just look at the map of Nigeria, dot where universities are and higher institutions are. Those are the hotspots for crime. And we're not having that conversation to say, is it that we're not engaging the youth well enough? Or is it that we're not giving them the right skills? And yet, we have some rising stars that are coming up. I mean, there's a young child called Inyaboyeji who is, you know, an entrepreneur just at 27. I was with Zuckerberg. I think they set up Andela together. He moved into something else. He's moving on to another thing. I mean, these are people who could be called out to mentor. And then we can ask them, how come, I mean, how did you get here? What are your thoughts about our curricula? And let's sit down with them.
We have private universities, but do you think we've lost it as far as public universities are concerned?
Both private and public, we need to sit down and engage the employers of labor. My products, are these the right people you want for the private sector? If you are a bank, for instance, what are the things that you need? If you are a manufacturing concern, what are the skills that you need, the engineering skills, the factory skills? Let's begin to train them along that line. And I also believe that the government is concentrating too much at the tertiary education. Let's have technical schools. Let's have vocation centers. I mean, this could be quick wins. For instance, you need 6 to 9 months to train people for basic technical skills. Take them off the streets and then provide, you know, good training for them.
Furniture making, joinery.
Excellent. Joinery, you know, painting, and what have you. And these are the way by which, of course, we don't forget that a large percentage of our economy is still, you know, around SMEs and what have you. So those basic skills that are needed, this is the way by which, of course, we can have inclusive growth. Then we'll begin to increase our GDP numbers, and this will translate into well-being of every man on the street.
If we give credit, small credit, to small businesses, one-man business, roadside, artisans, and the rest, do you think this is a people-based investing path that could help us deliver an inclusive growth?
Small credit is good, but you're giving who? If you're giving them and they don't know what to do to turn things around, you've just given them money.
But they've been doing the business already, so they know what to do.
Well, are they even doing the business right? So I'm not against small credits, but I'm also in favor of mentoring them and getting them to do things better than they're doing now. They don't just have to look at their immediate environment. Like, for instance, I mean, I was in India about 6, 7 years ago, and I find out that if you go to Bangalore, for instance, most of the front office activities of companies in US. So you are calling a company in US, and the person answering you is in Bangalore. It's because, of course, some of those activities have been outsourced. Nigeria, with, you know, our demographics, large number of youth, we can actually be indeed recruitment center for most of these corporate giants all over the globe, even without leaving Nigeria. In AFC, about 4 or 5 years ago, we had some MBAs that are on our payroll, and yet they are residents in India. You know, we send jobs across to them, and then they give us feedback. So you can get employment in a US company even while you are here as a Nigerian. All of this can happen if we do the right thing.
How much more of this do you think, and how soon do you think we need to get all of this put in a single box and running? Do you think we have critical issues to resolve, because before we can get a government or an administration, they'll be able to chest all of this and deliver it?
It's actually to sit down with the political class, whether they are on the left or on the right, and get them to understand that this is not about political ideology, it's about doing the right thing.
You're talking about a bipartisan conversation.
Exactly.
How do we get bipartisanship? Here we have about 100-odd political parties. Who do you talk to among the 100?
Forget about 100-odd political parties. We all know that in Nigeria today, there are still 2, 3 major political parties. I would say 2 national political parties, maybe 1 or